Central. The music, the happenings, interviews, and all aspects of Carnival. Vava Central. 8 to 9:30 a.m. Monday to Friday with Kenny Francis and Team RCI. Vava Central. Beginning May 21st on the Caribbean Sound and on UTV Channel 124 from May 27th. Vava Central is sponsored by the Carnival Music Management Committee, the Carnival Planning and Management Committee, Tropical Shipping Solution Limited, Paris Paints, Creamy Novelties, Air Condition Depot, Giant Malt, and Stamina Energy Drink. Vava Central! Vava Central, 8 to 9:30 a.m. on the Caribbean Sound and on UTV Channel 124.
All delinquent fathers, so deadbeat dads could retract, making their own seats suffer. Broken home is a major setback for all single mothers. We can keep up with this map of our children who suffer. It's a shame when your child don't know you, cause mother's doing a job of two. A burning issue, ain't nothing new, leaving single mom struggle. Every child need a role model. Time to rise and break this cycle. Delinquent fathers, in this era you could rest assured. Single mothers ain't taking no more. Delinquent fathers, every child deserves your support. Pay up now or pay up in court. Too many children have been denied. If you are a victim, raise your hands high. Delinquent fathers, time to bury your foolish pride. Be a real man and support your child.
Good night. Who is a master at playing? You never hear no one saying. In the region or Lucia, he play with a minor. But it's them wannabes who have not, claiming to be what they're not. That's why this vice principal played himself in trouble. And so last year just so, he left beloved Calypso, cause he got a job abroad. Boy, that really struck a chord. Don't play with the minor. Don't play with the minor. Learn from educator, and I'm not a hater. Don't play with the minor. Don't play with the minor. Check your standard. Calan knowledge, that is major. That is major. One bad brick, and you know you stick. That is major. That is major. Don't play with the minor. 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 Don't play with the minor.
101.1 and 99.1. This is Turn Up Radio.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It's Wednesday, June the 12th, 2024. This is program number 1193 of the Lunchroom, and I'm your host, Calix George Jr. In addition to 101.1 FM radio, you can get us at our website. It is rcistlucia.com. We're also streaming live on Facebook. Just search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International. And of course, be sure to like and share that link as well with your friends and family. The numbers to call in if you want to tell us what's on your plate today, again, it's 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. That's our mainline number. And if you also want to reach us on WhatsApp, we have that option. That number is 724-0008. You can message in if you so choose, if you don't want your voice on air. And again, that number is 724-0008. That's our WhatsApp number. Some birthday greetings for today going out to Mrs. Danielle Gordon Darsheville. Happy birthday to you, and we hope that you're having a splendid birthday celebration. Hope it's a great one for you. And also to Mr. David Worrell. Happy birthday to you, sir. And we do hope that you're having a fantastic birthday celebration. Have a bit of a look at the history for the day. Back in the year 1830, the beginning of the French colonization of Algeria, where 34,000 French soldiers landed 27 kilometers west of Algiers. And the year 1864, the Battle of Trevilian Station, the bloodiest and largest all-cavalry battle of the American Civil War, ended with a Confederate tactical victory and a Union successful retreat into Louisa County, Virginia. 1931, on this day, June the 12th, saw Al Capone being indicted on 5,000 counts of prohibition and perjury. 1942, Anne Frank, you may know her, had a very famous book, a diary, found after World War II, and has become quite an interesting story into Nazi-occupied Netherlands. Well, she got that diary as a birthday present on this day in the city of Amsterdam. 1964, on this day, saw Nelson Mandela being sentenced to life in prison in South Africa, and of course that was under the apartheid regime. We now move on to our dish of the day. The daily dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Joux Grosile, and Slack Street in Vieux-Fort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome to our program. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Our apologies for the late start. I was a little bit late cutting hair, and in part, I suppose that was as a result of the commemoration of the life of His Eminence Kelvin Edward Cardinal Felix, the Archbishop Emeritus of Castries. And from yesterday evening, and of course into today, there was a two-part service, a celebration of his life and contribution to St. Lucia. The Archdiocese of St. Lucia, of course, is a Catholic, Roman Catholic archdiocese, which in fact was established out of the Archdiocese of Port of Spain, Trinidad, and it became a diocese back, I think, in 1957. And Kelvin Cardinal Felix, for very many people, perhaps would have been the most well-known Archbishop of Castries by virtue of the fact that he served as Archbishop for the longest period of any Archbishop. And so he was remembered yesterday upon his passing. On the 30th of May, he passed Corpus Christi. And just to share his biography, I think it is noteworthy to, in fact, share with the population, because you do have some young people who would, of course, come after this period and may not necessarily know him and the contribution that he made to the Catholic Church here in St. Lucia, as well as his contribution to the region, his contribution to St. Lucia in general and the region in general. And so just to share his biography, which is actually found in the program for today's funeral mass, it reads as follows. His Eminence, Kelvin Edward Cardinal Felix, Archbishop Emeritus of Castries, died at the Benedictine Abbey of Our Lady of the Assumption, Mount of Prayer, Kubari, St. Lucia, on the 30th of May, 2024, Corpus Christi. Cardinal Felix was born on February the 15th, 1933, in Roseau, Dominica, one of the 9 children of Major Edward Mosley Felix, Chief of the Dominica Police Force, and his wife, Melanie Cadet. He attended the Roseau Boys Primary School and the Dominica Grammar School before proceeding to the Regional Seminary of St. John Vianney and the Uganda Martyrs in Trinidad to study for the Catholic priesthood. He was ordained in his homeland on April the 8th, 1956, the first diocesan priest from Roseau and the first Catholic priest to be ordained in Dominica. After a number of years of pastoral ministry in Dominica, he pursued further studies at St. Francis Xavier University in Nova Scotia, and he gained a diploma in adult education in 1963. The University of Notre Dame in Indiana, where he gained an MA in sociology and anthropology in 1967, and the University of Bradford in Yorkshire, England, where he pursued postgraduate studies in sociology up to 1970. Upon completion of his studies in 1970, he was appointed tutor at the Regional Seminary of St. John Vianney and the Uganda Martyrs, Trinidad, and lecturer in sociology at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine. From 1972 to 1975, he served as principal of St. Mary's Academy, a Roman Catholic high school in Dominica, before joining the Caribbean Conference of Churches, CCC, as Associate General Secretary with responsibility for the Agency for Renewal of the Churches, ARC, from 1975 to 1981. On October the 5th, 1981, he was consecrated Archbishop of Castries and became the Metropolitan of the Roman Catholic Ecclesiastical Province, which included the OECS Diocese of St. George's, Grenada, Kingstown, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Roseau, Dominica, and St. John's, Bastet, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, Anguilla, and the British Virgin Islands. Besides the onerous task of administration of an archdiocese, Archbishop Felix also served in regional leadership positions as president of the Caribbean Conference of Churches between the years 1981 to 1986, and president of the Antilles Episcopal Conference between the years 1991 to 1997. He also served internationally on various pontifical committees of the Holy See, including the Pontifical Council for Family Life, Vox Clara, ICEL, and I think that is with reference to the Council or International Commission for the English Liturgy, ICEL, the Pontifical Council, Cor Unum, the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, and the Synodal Council for America. In 1986, Archbishop Felix was awarded an honorary doctorate of laws from St. Francis Xavier, St. X, University in Nova Scotia, Canada. He also received the award of Officer of the British Empire, OBE, in 1992, the Dominica Medal of Honor in 1999, and the St. Lucia Medal of Honor in 2002. After 27 years of selfless service to the people of St. Lucia and the Caribbean, Archbishop Felix retired on February the 15th, 2008, at the mandatory age prescribed by church law. At the Papal Consistory of February the 22nd, 2014, Pope Francis elevated Archbishop Felix to the rank of Cardinal of the Roman Catholic Church and appointed him Cardinal Priest of Santa Maria della Salute a Primavalle Church, Our Lady of Health at Primavalle in Rome. To mark the occasion, a special St. Lucia postal stamp bearing the Cardinal's image was issued in 2014. As Cardinal, His Eminence continued to represent the region at various international, regional, and local functions until failing health caused him to withdraw from public engagement. About a year ago, he was taken from Dominica to St. Lucia for medical care. Based at the Benedictine Abbey, he became well enough to appear occasionally at a few public functions and Holy Mass on Sundays. However, frail from age and medical complications, he eventually succumbed after days of constant prayer for the church and for vocations to the priesthood and religious life. And the funeral of Cardinal Felix took place at the Minor Basilica of the Immaculate Conception this morning at starting at 10 o'clock. And in fact, it was, as I mentioned, preceded by a vigil service, which also took place at the Cathedral Basilica of the Immaculate Conception yesterday evening. And according to his wishes, his body will be interred at the cathedral grounds in his homeland in the capital, Roseau, Dominica. Of course, he was eulogized by many yesterday at the vigil. There were statements coming from leaders of temporal leaders, civil leaders, inclusive of the Minister for Ecclesiastical Affairs, Mr. Joachim Henry, the Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Alan Chasney, as well as the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre. He was, of course, also remembered, and individuals who paid tribute to him included a number of religious leaders from around the Caribbean, including right here in St. Lucia, of course, Monsignor Patrick Anthony Paba, who is very well known, of course, for the work that he did in cultural and folk development and raising the liturgy of the church through Creole, and it certainly was done in this mass earlier on. But he, in fact, made the point that the clergy of St. Lucia, when in fact there was the eventual loss of Archbishop Patrick Webster, was a native of St. Lucia, the first native Archbishop of St. Lucia, given the fact that Archbishop Charles Gachet was a FMI priest, came from Vendée, he came from France. And so at that time, in 1981, and at that time St. Lucia was being, that archdiocese was being managed through Bishop Gilly out of Guyana. And in fact, the clerics at that point, in fact, came together and wanted to make a recommendation as to who they would like to see serve as the Archbishop of Castries. And in fact, they selected upon His Grace, His Eminence now, Kelvin Cardinal Felix, who at the time was in fact lecturing at the seminary at Mount St. Benedict in Trinidad. And in fact, there was, Paba himself apparently went across to Trinidad to make representation and in fact to seek the agreement of Kelvin Felix to in fact become the Archbishop. And in fact, he agreed, and the recommendation in fact went to the Holy See, and they in fact agreed to make Kelvin Felix the Archbishop, the next Archbishop of Castries. He came, of course, with a lot of experience as being Father Felix over in Dominica, and for a time as well, he was in fact the the headmaster of St. Mary's Academy, SMA, which is a sister school to St. Mary's College here in St. Lucia, and gained the reputation during that period of being a peacemaker, because there was a lot of interest in Afrocentrism and the Black Power movement of the 1970s, and he actually came into that institution at perhaps a very unsettled time, a very rebellious time, you could say, just as it was here in St. Lucia as well with St. Mary's College. And he was able to steer the ship and to, in fact, hold things together. And he clearly seems to have done the very same thing, especially here in St. Lucia. In fact, as you'd well appreciate, he actually became Archbishop in 1981. And that, of course, as well was a very tumultuous time politically in the history of St. Lucia. And he, of course, also played a role in being a peacemaker, a facilitator, a diplomat, amongst even within the what was seen to be a very confusing time politically. Of course, he was also a very humble individual, and that point was being made by the current Archbishop, His Grace Gabriel Malzé, in his homily today, that he really, although he was always very, very particular in his vestments when he was in fact celebrating Mass, or as he put it, representing Christ. He, of course, was very particular in ensuring that he put his best foot forward in that regard. But in terms of his own personal belongings and things, he lived a very, very, very simple life, even to the quarters that he maintained. We can think perhaps even to a very similar way how currently the current Pope, Pope Francis, does not in fact live in the rather extravagant papal palace, which was built over hundreds of years and has been there as the place for the popes to reside. He, in fact, stays in a hostel within the Vatican, effectively, a small place, really, and he doesn't really use those facilities. And in a similar way, certainly, Cardinal Felix was in that ilk in that regard. He, of course, also witnessed a lot of hardship over the period of time when he, in fact, was Archbishop, and we can certainly think back to an attack on his own personal life. And in fact, the point being made by one of those who was paying tribute to him yesterday, one of the priests, Father Orlando Williams, was pointing out that he, in fact, was here at the seminary at East Winds, above the pastoral center, at that time. And when he heard about the whole issue, of course, it was very concerning. There was an individual tried to slit his throat, that of then Archbishop Felix, and in fact was saved by the fact that he had this very thick collar, Roman collar that the archbishops wear or bishops wear, and in fact made the point that he, subsequent to that, the following day, actually went to visit the individual who tried to kill him. And of course, I suppose in very many ways he was following very similarly what Pope John Paul II actually did when there was an attempt on his life as well. A shooter, somebody tried to assassinate him, a gentleman by the name of Ali Ajah, and later on he in fact visited Mr. Ali Ajah in prison. But in the case of Archbishop Felix, he in fact went the following day to speak to that individual and of course to offer him forgiveness. And the other major difficulty, a period of hurt and hardship, no doubt, would have also been the attack on worshippers back on December 31st, All Year's Day of the year 2000, when in fact there was that very unfortunate incident in the cathedral, which involved, in fact, individuals actually suffering significant burns and attacks by machete, and led to the loss of life of two religious, in the persons of Sister Teresa Egan, a member of the Cluny religious group, as well as diocesan priest, Father Charles Gaillard. And of course, that was a very difficult period for the church and Archbishop Kelvin Felix at this time. Of course, he tried very hard as well in terms of managing and building up the church in so many different ways. But what I could also say is that he was certainly a great lover of the liturgy of the Mass and the celebration of the Mass. And in fact, there was a particular way that he, in fact, would sing the Eucharistic prayer. I don't think I've heard any other priest or bishop actually do it in the way that he does it. And of course, he had a lot of experience in terms of liturgical matters in the actual celebration of Eucharist, and has been pointed out, of course, it was quite fitting that he in fact passed on Corpus Christi, that feast in which is celebrated about the body and blood of Christ. So that's our short, well, not so short, but piece on Kelvin Edward Cardinal Felix, who was his funeral was today here in St. Lucia, and then he is to be brought across to Dominica, sister island of Dominica, where he will find his place of rest. That's our dish of the day.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Joux Grizzly, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And this is the latest weather report for today, 12 June 2024. That is as of noon. And the forecaster is Webster Cajado. Weather at Urinora Airport is fair. Weather at GFL Charles Airport is cloudy. Temperature at Urinora Airport is 32 degrees Celsius or 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Last night's minimum temperature at Urinora Airport was 28 degrees Celsius or 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Relative humidity at Urinora Airport is of 64%. Wind at Urinora Airport is blowing from the east at 21 miles per hour or 33 kilometers per hour. Rainfall in the 24-hour period that ended at 8 a.m. today at Urinora Airport, nil. At GFL Charles Airport, 0.9 millimeters. Total rainfall for the month of June thus far at Urinora Airport, 57.6 millimeters, and GFL Charles Airport, 21.8 millimeters. Sunset today, 6:32 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow, 5:35 a.m. Forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. The winds will be blowing from the east near 20 miles per hour or 31 kilometers per hour. Weather fair to partly cloudy with a few late night to early morning showers. Marine forecast for seas in a 25-mile or 40-kilometer radius from St. Lucia. Tides for Castries Harbour low at 2:31 p.m. high at 8:56 p.m. Tides for Viewfort Bay low at 3:58 p.m. high at 10:03 p.m. Seas moderate with locally rough. That is, seas moderate to locally rough with waves 5 to 7 feet or 1.5 to 2.1 meters. Small craft operators and sea bathers should exercise caution due to above normal seas. Forecast for the Lesser Antilles, fair to partly cloudy with a few brief showers. And a tropical weather outlook. The Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate moderate to brisk easterly winds across the eastern Caribbean during the next couple of days. A tropical wave located over the central tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. Another tropical wave located over the eastern tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour. Tropical cyclone formation is not expected over the tropical Atlantic during the next 7 days. That is the latest weather forecast for today's 12th June 2024. Our forecaster is Webster Kajana.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1. Color Me Red, da yours, baby! At the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground from 8 p.m. Friday, July 12th. Early bird tickets are $125, regular tickets $140, and for the ultimate VIP experience, you pay only $425. Grab your tickets now at Radio Caribbean International, Steve's Barbershop, all the Cell outlets, TM Antoine Partners, and Red Team members. Color Me Red, da yours, baby!
She tell me that yours, baby. Take that, that yours, honey. Tap back, that yours, baby.
Click or tap. Order now and get that. Everything in stock, we have that. From the website, you can go check that. Rebar, fencing, roofing, BRC windows, Versa framing. Well stock for your buildings. Caribbean Metals is now with the e-commerce. Just one click, you can get it quick. Place your orders online and don't stick. Friendly website at your fingertips. No need to come in store to get equipped. That's right, you can get it quick. Hassle-free, no need to worry. Ordering is simple like ABC. Visit our website today, you see www.caribbeanmetalslimited.com. That's www.caribbeanmetalslimited.com.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you can also call in via WhatsApp number, that is 724-0008. You can also message into that number if you so choose. Now, just to point out that the Prime Minister, in fact, has headed off to the Bahamas. He is over in Nassau, Bahamas, and he is going to be participating for the next couple of days in the 31st Afri-Exim Bank annual meetings and the Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum. Now, you would recall that there has been a lot of effort by Caribbean leaders to, in fact, begin collaboration and deepening its efforts of trade and economic development with Africa. And the Africa Export-Import Bank, Afri-Exim Bank, in fact, has been one of those players and actors that has, in fact, come into the region. They've actually set up their own branch office in Barbados. And in addition to that, they actually have decided to have their annual meeting here in the Caribbean. And of course, that no doubt is a pretty big gesture and show of confidence in building that relationship between Africa and the Caribbean. One can easily say that the Caribbean is probably, demographically speaking, the most African region of the world outside of Africa. And in fact, the way Africa is, there's an African Union, which was it's an agency similar to how we have CARICOM, the Caribbean Community, or how you have the European Union. The African Union has been around. It took over from an earlier Organization of African Unity, and they're based in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. And Africa, of course, is a massive continent, nearly 1.5 billion inhabitants. So Africa effectively has larger populations than China, as well as a larger population than India, if, of course, you look at Africa as a whole. But we're talking about 54 different countries, however, sovereign states. And if you add, I suppose, also Western Sahara, which has been in dispute for some time, you actually get 55. And they've divided up Africa into different regions. And so you have the West African countries. So within West Africa, Western Africa, you've got Benin, you've got Burkina Faso, you've got Gambia or the Gambia, you've got Ghana, you've got Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Cote d'Ivoire. You have Cabo Verde, which is a grouping of islands, the Cape Verde Islands, which we quite often hear quite a lot about when we're speaking about our Met news or meteorological news. It tends to be where these hurricanes form somewhere near that area. And of course, you've also got Liberia, which is a very interesting state in and of itself because it was created as a home for repatriated Africans coming from the Americas. Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and Togo. And that's just West Africa. That is just West Africa, with a population of over 400 million people, 435.6 million people in West Africa alone. And of course there are other regions of Africa that are really very important as well. Of course, we earlier on were speaking about South Africa, which finds itself in the Southern African belt. And in that belt you have countries like Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and of course South Africa. And that's the southern region of Africa. The northern region quite often tends to be seen as the Arab region, or the and sometimes in fact is considered the Saharan region of Africa. And in very many of the economic reports, they sometimes make a dichotomy, and they speak of sub-Saharan Africa. So they talk about Africa south of the Sahara, to make a difference, to separate the Africa and the northern part. This northern region is that region which has been very much influenced by the Muslim faith, the Arab population, a significant Arab population, because it was effectively part of various Arab caliphates or empires, if you want to think of them in that sense. And so if we start from Egypt on the eastern side, closest to the Middle East, and going right across into Libya and Algeria, but also regions such as Mauritania, Morocco, Tunisia, as well as I mentioned earlier on, Western Sahara. And then you also have Eastern Africa, and which is of course where you have Ethiopia, and we've know pretty much a lot about Ethiopia, I think, through a lot of its reverence from the context of Rastafarianism, but of course also one of the very long-standing traditional Christian populations, or pre-European conquest populations of Christianity, which date very, very far back, as well as at one point Judaism as well. And so you've got Ethiopia, you've got Kenya, another significant powerhouse in the east of Africa, but you've also got Tanzania, we should also mention, a very significant one, Uganda in the center of Africa, in the Great Lakes region of Africa, but as well Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, Rwanda, Mauritius. If you talk about the islands in the Indian Ocean, there are a number of them that are considered part of that eastern region of Africa. Mauritius, the Seychelles, the Comoros Islands as well, and a number of other countries, including Djibouti. You're hearing a lot about Djibouti in the news because it's right on the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden, and it's a pretty important place for a number of countries to have military bases these days. Eritrea, which effectively is a pretty hot spot because it is the part of it's a country that kind of prevents Ethiopia from having a coastline. Ethiopia being a country that is landlocked, as well as Madagascar, which is a very significantly large island, if you want to call it an island, but it is an island off the coast of the African mainland. And as well, we have Rwanda as well. Interestingly enough, although they're pretty close, Rwanda and Burundi find themselves in separate regions of Africa. Burundi finds itself in what is known as the central region of Africa. And it's in fact one of the poorest countries in Africa, one of the poorest in the world. And that's on the basis of your GDP per capita. Other countries in Central Africa include that of Cameroon, the Central African Republic, Chad, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Sometimes you have two Congos that are referenced. You have one Congo is sometimes called Congo Brazzaville, and the other being Congo Kinshasa. And they, in fact, their capitals find themselves both very, very close to each other on the Congo River, on either side of the Congo River. And then you've got Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, the Republic of the Congo, which is Congo-Brazzaville, and Sao Tome and Principe. And it is, as I mentioned, a massive, massive continent. And of late, we've seen a number of graphics, maps showing the fact that you can pack in the United States and China and India and all of Europe, and you still have space left over in Africa. It's also one of the continents that is, of course, very well known for its mineral wealth and has significant resources in that regard. And so it's sought after, and it certainly has been sought after by different forces over the years. And in the first instance, it was sought after for its labor force, and that was very, very much a factor of the 15th century, 16th century, 17th century, 18th century. Those periods were periods effectively of the depopulating of Africa. And that was because of the transatlantic slave trade, which saw somewhere between 6 and 11 million people being taken out of Africa during that period of time. And later, and as well, you also had the Arab slave trade, or the East African slave trade, regions such as Zanzibar and that entire coastline in modern day Tanzania and Kenya, where there was a significant flow of people being captured and being shipped out of the continent. And there's been lots of literature about that done by individuals such as Walter Rodney, Dr. Walter Rodney of Guyana, the former Prime Minister, Premier and Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Eric Williams, in literature such as Capitalism and Slavery, looking at the impact, and even more recently as well, some work that has been done by Dr. Hilary Beckles, the current Vice Chancellor of the University of West Indies, looking at the impact that this depopulating of Africa had during this period of time. So when you compare, it's not that the population declined in aggregate numbers according to the research, but it just simply did not grow as fast as other parts of the world. And so it then meant that Europe, as a result of this labor which was extracted from Africa and was used to develop plantations and to gain commodities, and Europe was able to actually grow tremendously fast later on, and certainly by the 1800s, with the rise of industrialization, that meant that they were able to, in fact, even the whole process of industrialization has been seen in part too because of the gains, the capital gains that Europe was able to enjoy from this exploitation. So that by the 1800s, Europe was experiencing a significant population boom, and was then able and to be in a position with the technology to be able to actually then move into Africa and engage in warfare and conquest. And just today in our history of the day, we heard about French occupation of Algeria as far back as the 1830s. And this was a process that was still going on up to the 20th century. This was an ongoing process. The British were not able to defeat the Ashanti kingdoms until the turn of the centuries, 1902. There were still wars, Ashanti wars being fought. in the case of what is now Ghana. And so this is a very relatively recent thing that was going on, this African colonization. And so now you have a situation where Africa is regaining its population. It is in fact the fastest growing part of the world right now. It has a significant population. It's projected to continue to grow at a really rapid rate and in fact some of the largest countries in the world will become African states. And what that means certainly is it's an interesting situation that the world now finds itself in, because what you're seeing is that you've got declining populations in Europe. They're not growing as fast, and in many other parts of the world it's a similar situation. Even in Asia, in places that were very homogeneous like Japan, they're now having to embrace immigration. But we're seeing what is happening right now in the case of Europe, and it's the rise of ultra-right interests in the European Union. And that is in very large measure due to a significant rise in migration, in individuals who are literally finding themselves across the Sahara. They're being imported by groups that are getting money from these individuals because they are simply looking for an opportunity sometimes to escape conflict, but other times because they simply want to get a better way of life, and they're trying to get to Europe because they see that there's opportunity for a better quality of life there. And that is going to continue to be a significant driver of the world, because simply you've got a massive burgeoning population in so many African countries as it stands right now. And I mean, you can just look at Nigeria alone, with over 200 million people, and Ethiopia with another 125 million, and these are projected to potentially even double over the next 80 years. So it is certainly going to be a major player in the future, whether the rest of the world likes it or not. But what happens in Africa will effectively begin to determine what happens in terms of the success of many efforts at play in terms of sustainable development. Because with this very large population, with this very large youthful population, it therefore means that we are going to be seeing a lot of opportunity, but if you're not careful, it could very well become a lot of challenges and problems as well. So the embrace and the attempts by the Caribbean to work with Africa are certainly very commendable. In fact, there has been a recognition of the Caribbean community as the 6th region of Africa. And why not? Because you right now have a situation where you can have France in the Caribbean, you can have France in South America, you can have France in North America with Saint Miquelon and Mayotte, and you can have France in the Pacific with the Polynesian Islands. So why can't you have Africa in the Caribbean? Let's take in a call at this time as we try to probably have to end the program soon, but we still try to take in a call. Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today? Hello?
Hi, good afternoon. I thought it was Asia that had the highest population.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I thought it was Asia with the highest population at 4-point-something billion. And
no, I wasn't comparing continents. I was just I actually compared all of Africa to China or to India.
Okay. And
Yes.
you said the Africans are fleeing to go to the European countries for a better life.
Yes, you do have quite a bit of that happening.
And that is because of the large number of Africans. Because I have a family member, my niece, who is in one of those West African countries. Firsthand, the mentality of our own black people, they don't have that mindset of developing the country. They have the resources, they want the freedom, but that slave mentality just stays there. And a lot that could have been done to develop that country, to make it a lot, because they have the... It's not being done, because it's like they just want to, and it's from family member, she's living in one of those. I can tell you, and coming from Little St. Lucia, and you see the development of St. Lucia, and you see the people have all of this that land and everything, but yet the mindset is not there. They just laid back. Because, the mentality is just not there to develop. They push themselves forward.
Well, I think there has been a lot of challenges with that, and it's hard to even compare in some respects. You have some countries that they're countries because Europeans decided that they were going to carve out this space, but they're not really united in the sense that you've got a lot of different ethnicities, or you've got a lot of different religious differences. Nigeria, I think, is a pretty good example of that, where you've got the northern part of Nigeria primarily Muslim, southern part primarily Christian, and then even within the southern regions you've got lots of different groups as well, lots of different ethnicities, whether it's Igbo, whether it's Yoruba, so it's hard sometimes to be able to create unity.
African descent?
Sorry?
But are they not all African descent?
And I think, you see, this is the issue. How do you build a broader identity? There's the same way in the Caribbean, caller. Aren't we all right here part of the Caribbean? We all we all mixed in some form or fashion, and why is it that we still cannot cooperate on so many different issues?
Yes.
Right? And I think that is that's a major issue that we have to deal with, as well as them. They have the same way everybody wants their own currency. Can they not?
What I find is very stupid. Everybody wanting to have their own currency. One Caribbean, CARICOM, every Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana, Jamaica have a different currency worth nothing. Jamaica, Guyana, and these people money is worth nothing. But why all of us come from the Caribbean? If you have to go to Jamaica, you have to have your EC change into some in order to get. Come on.
So I mean, it takes time in all of these places to be able to get unity. I mean, even in the United States of America, in as much as we see this country as this unified country, there are a lot of differences there too, eh? And we're seeing a lot of the political differences that are coming on, but there has to be a sense of a common central vision, central move, and I think that's where you have where powerful countries tend to develop. I mean, China is a pretty good example of that. You've got to have this sense of, I want to call it nationalism, but a sense of general purpose.
They're together, that's the thing. But, I don't understand why those in the Africans. I listen to stories. I listened to a story Saturday night of a Rasta guy that said he went to one of the African countries because he had to go to some temple there for something. And he was giving the whole experience. And, it was, when I listened to it, he was not even really accepted as a black man coming into Africa. Only he as a Rasta, because when
do we accept people from other Caribbean islands? We don't. We don't. Why I say we don't? I mean, we've gotten very better. Yes, but we still have a history.
But we're one of the most welcoming.
but we have a history right here of at the same time having, you've got some people in any society. You will have some people who tend to be more isolationist, or they create divisions, and this is why we have to be very keen to say no to these kinds of divisive practices. I mean, right now we're speaking about, for instance, free movement of all people in the Caribbean. Have we truly accepted that?
No.
I mean, anybody, whether they're coming from Trinidad, Guyana, Jamaica, Haiti, that we will be willing to say, hey, this is the Caribbean belongs to all of us, St. Lucia belongs to all of us, and so therefore
I think it's a matter of maybe protecting the bird.
And that's why, because we quite often create the small turfs, but we don't see it as well. If this is the case, then it's a broader space. We can all enjoy the broader space. We quite often just see what we have in our immediate back door and say that's ours and nobody should come. And it's a big challenge, definitely.
I think as the time goes by, people's minds will be more open and more accepting and more tolerant and all of these things. Maybe later.
Sorry, Carla, you were breaking up.
I'd say as time goes by, people's mind may become more open, more tolerant, more respectful of one another, and maybe then we will actually see true changes.
Let's hope so.
And even the Africans, because as you see, even in Africa.
But let's hope so. But look at what's happening in Europe right now. I'm not sure that it's becoming more tolerant. If we go by the polls and the election results, it looks like it's going in the opposite direction.
Okay, because I was listening to the BBC once, and I heard this guy said, do you think a white man could ever go and be prime minister in India? He said that. He called the BBC and he said, so there was a talk, and he said, how can we have an Indian running our country when a white man can never go to India and become a prime minister?
Well, I suppose that the issue there is that there was in fact a British person who was ruling India for a very long time. In fact, to the extent that they were considered the empress of India, or there was a viceroy. There was a whole system of colonialism there. And I think that's
wasn't aware of that.
And I think that's where the challenge comes. When you people still have these hang-ups over the reality of the colonial period, and that's the challenge that many of these countries face. But it's interesting. I think you're seeing changes even in South Africa. You're seeing some changes where people are. There's this one example, interesting one. I mean, it might be an outlier, but a gentleman who is a mayor of a certain township in KwaZulu Natal. He's white, but he speaks Zulu, right? So he people can identify with him, understand him, and he's been their mayor for a good number of years now. Was
he born there?
Well, he's South African. Yeah. So
he learned the language.
And yep, he's definitely. So I think let's hope we can get to that point. Even in around the world, really. When we can actually look beyond issues of race or religion on these matters. Interesting enough, in the case of Mexico, quite recently, they elected a non-Catholic, a Jewish lady to be their president. So in a majority Catholic country, although some may say, well, maybe it's a sign that you've gotten less, religion is mattering less for a lot of people, but it's still a good sign that there's inclusivity. All right, caller. Thanks for that one. Have a good one. We're going to have to end it at this time. Our program, of course, will be back again tomorrow, God willing, for another one. I believe we're supposed to be getting somebody in from the Ministry of Health to talk about one of their ongoing performance-based projects that is happening. We've been speaking about that in the past, but I think they've got some more updates for us on that initiative. So we'll be having that interview tomorrow afternoon. Hope you can join us for that. I'm your host, Calix George Jr., saying goodbye.